Good morning, everyone. And today we are going to continue our class on cracking NTA UGC net PYQ explanation. We are in shift second of 2022 exams. So we have already covered like 75 questions. Today will be our last session on 2022 shift second. Okay, so good morning everyone. Write hi in the chat box, whoever is there, and we'll begin. So the question number 76 is here. I hope you can see it. Okay, so identify the correct one from the following. So, is Bharti Mukherjee's novel display a split into diasporic subject, and is it about Rohinton mystery belongs to the community of Parsis that fled to India from Persia to escape Islamic persecution, or C. Sujata Bhatt recalls home as a nostalgic memory and longs intensely for it. And D statement says Farooq Dhondi connects Delhi and New York to discuss diasporic experiences. Now the last statement is Sarat Chandra in his poem second, the third country, whatever. So wishes to die in India. Tell me which one do you recognize? If any one of it you recognize, you will definitely write the answer. Like when we see in the first Bharti Mukherjee's novel, okay, what display split into diasporic subject is it? Right. So it seems yes. I mean, of course, her novel talks about diasporic subjects. So this is our true statement. And what about the second? Rohinton mystery belongs to the community of Parsis. Of course, it is Rohinton mystery. Through the name, we can understand it is yes. Rohinton mystery belongs to what? Parsis that fled to India from Persia to escape Islamic persecution. Correct. So A and B, where is A and B? Only in two options, right? And D. Sujata Bhatt C recalls home of nostalgic memory and longs intensely for it. So Sujata Bhatt what recalls home? Fine, nostalgic memory longs intensely for it, right? So this is also our correct answer. And Farooq Dhondi connects Delhi and New York to discuss diasporic experience, and that will check in the explanation if it is true or not. And Sarat Chandra in his poem in the third country, okay, this is N, in the third country wishes to die in India, and that two statement doesn't seem correct according to the answer and according to explanation. Of course, Bharti Mukherjee's novel what deals with diasporic experience individual who struggle with the challenges and displacements, identity and belonging, right? Great. And second option is Rohinton mystery, as we know, is Parsi Canadian writer of Indian origin, right? And whose works often explore the Parsi community in India. Fine. I hope these two is clear. Now, Sujata Bhatt is an Indian poet, correct? Who writes about what her memories of home and the struggle of living in foreign land. So that is also our correct statement. Got it. And other explanation is Farooq Dhondi. Of course, he's an Indian born British writer, remember that, and a screenwriter and left wing activist who resides in United Kingdom. So our option was D something, Delhi and New York. If he's British, maybe he talk about London or something, right? So this seems incorrect. And E says Sarat Chandra Chattopadhyay, who's Indian Bengali novelist, writer, did not write a poem, while he did write about themes related to home, nostalgia, and he did not express desire to die in India in his writing, right? So these two statements are incorrect. So we can just go with A, B, and C. Question number 77. We are here again talking about, we are going to match the list 1 from list 2, and the list 1 is about the play, and it is about what it is about. Let's short description. So of course, clouds, Lysistrata, wasps, these are the plays by who? Aristophanes. These all plays are by Aristophanes, and all of them talk about different topic, right? And as we know, government by women, through the name we can understand it is talking about Lysistrata. So C1 is where C1 is only in 2 options. We can easily eliminate, and we know about clouds, that it is like humorous comedy kind of attack on which B is third, like B is third, criticism of the new spirit of philosophy inquiry. Got it? This is our cloud, and the other one, we'll just take this with blue. This will be blue. Okay, and Lystrata, as we talk about that, of course we'll just not blue but different color with yellow, right? Lystrata is about government by women, right? And wasp, again, it is by Aristophanes, and it talks about what? We'll just explain with different color, maybe red. Fine. Okay, pink. So wasp is about for an attack on demagogues. So I hope you understand this. So we have all here correct, and the last, the A1 is will denote with different color, that'll be light green, right? So Arcanians. So this is about attack on parties involved in war. So I hope this is all clear, and of course answer is this for us. And we have what is Arcanian? It is comedy by Aristophanes, and remember it's Greek play, and it was first performance date, you should remember 425. Maybe you will get somewhere question related to the chronological. So remember, the play is satire on the parties involved in war. Simple. Cloud is a comedy, as we know, by Aristophanes, first performed in 423, and it is satire on the spirit of philosophical inquiry that had taken hold in Athens. Got it? So the main character is Stripsiad. I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyway, you just remember the name Stripsiades. Okay, a poor farmer who wants to educate his son Pheidippides, okay, and in ways of sophistry in order to avoid paying his debt. So Cloud is about, Lystrata is again play by comedy by Aristophanes, performed before all of these, is 411, and it talks about a woman who organized a sex strike in order to bring an end of Peloponnesian War. Okay, Peloponnesian War. I hope you understand this, and that we have. And D, Wasp. Wasp is a comedy by Aristophanes again, and it was performed in 422, and it is a satire on the demagogues who held sway in Athens during the Peloponnesian War. Correct. So that is, the play criticized the correct practices of the court and manipulation of the masses by demagogues. I hope you understand this. Then we'll move to the question number 78. Again, we are high seriousness. Remember, high seriousness is a word which talks about Matthew Arnold. So that is our keyword, right? So through one word you could just understand about Matthew Arnold, and we'll see what is the answer. Only C, because none of them are talked about seriousness, and it was only Matthew Arnold who talked about it. So I hope you got the point. Through one keyword you could answer easily, right, if you just know the term. And this was in culture and anarchy, I guess. No. Anyway, we'll see where it was discussed. It was discussed in the study of poetry. I hope you understand that. And the study of poetry is written by Matthew Arnold, and it is what? It is a milestone in the history of English literary criticism. So, it gives poetry. Poetry is a kind of very high position. He's confident in the high of poetry. So according to him, poetry attains the place of religion. It is able to make room in the heart of man. So it is an application of ideas of human life. The best kind of poetry, according to Arnold, is what? A criticism of life. So this point you have to remember, and it is an interpretation of life. It has the power to console, sustain from us. What? Poem has the power to console, sustain, and form us. Got it? So I hope you understand this. And of course, Arnold sets high standards for poetry. He proclaimed that the truth and high seriousness, both truth and high seriousness, are two essential qualities of excellent poetry. I hope you got the point. And now we'll discuss about if you want more. Of course, he has given example as Chaucer. That question is important because that has not already been, we have already got the question based on that. So it is Chaucer, according to Arnold, that it is Chaucer who establishes romantic poetry in England. And Chaucer is the father of splendid English poetry. Got it? And his poetry has largeness, of course. There is freedom and kindness as well. So Arnold, however, shows that Arnold showers high praise on Chaucer. This is quite important, and you should definitely know about this thing. However, surprisingly, he also remarks that Chaucer is not a classic. According to him, he argues that this immortal poet lacks high seriousness, and Chaucer does not have the high seriousness that Homer, Shakespeare, Milton, and many other has. So remember, he talked about Milton as well. That was the question, that high seriousness as a quality of great poet, and he quotes from John Milton to prove it. So it was not only John Milton has this high seriousness, but who else has? Write in the chat box. Homer, Shakespeare, and Milton. Correct? And which poet doesn't have, who lacks the high seriousness? And it was Chaucer. Fine, that's great. And the voyage of travail of Sir John Mandeville were written by. So one more, question number 75 says, the voyage and travail of Sir John Mandeville were written in what? In Midland dialect, Queen's England, or Northumbria? Answer is our Midland dialect. Got it. And correct explanation is there. It is written by Sir John Mandeville, and it is also known as the Travels of Sir John Mandeville. So, okay, it is a travelogue, remember, from the 14th century, quite early, and that describes the author alleged journey through the Middle East, South Asia, and other regions of the world. Alright, it is written in a form of English that was known as the Midland dialect. Hope you got it. And so question number 80. Just give me a minute. I'll be back quickly. Okay, I'll just continue. After that, I'll take the call. Anyway. The first thing, find the chronological order of publication of the given. So if you even know one thing, you will be able to answer. One. So mythologies of grammatology, culture and society. Remember, blindness and insight, the location of culture. So if you just know one, just tell me who wrote mythology. Mythology is by Roland Barthes. Okay, and in this work, what Barthes analyze popular culture. So first of all, we'll just understand who has written all this. So of grammatology, everybody know that it's Derrida, right? Who wrote? Derrida. And the second is culture and society. Culture and society is written by Raymond Williams. And again, blindness and insight is written by Paul D. Mann. And the last one, we have the location of culture. It is the last work, and it is by Homi K. Bhabha. So if you remember the name, of course you'll understand who came early. That was all of them are pretty close. See, 1957 mythology, culture and society by Raymond Williams. It is also close, like 1 year gap. That will a little bit create problem. But if you look at the answer, AB is of course AC. So through that you can, if you know one, mythology by Barthes, and then Raymond Williams wrote culture and society, and of grammatology, that date you must have known, and of course it's quite famous. That date in 1960 is that year of grammatology. So a little bit about it. Mythology is about analyze popular culture and the ways which it shapes our perception and understanding of the world. Got it? And Culture and Society by Raymond Williams. This book is seminal in cultural studies, of course. In that work, Raymond Williams argues that the culture is not just a set of artistic or intellectual achievements, but rather a way of life and a reflection of the value and beliefs of society. Got it? And of grammatology, of course, everybody, like 98% of you will know, or I can say 99. It is by Jacques Derrida. We have to remember the date also. That is 1967, the year. And this work is considered, of course, his most influential work. And it is the key text in what? Deconstruction. Okay, in of grammatology, Derrida challenges the idea of fixed and stable meaning in language and argues that meaning is constantly in flux and that there are no ultimate or foundational meaning, right? So that is our deconstruction. And Blindness and Insight is by Paul de Man, and it talks about who? In this work, he talks about the role of language in literary criticism and argues that literary texts are inherently ambiguous and the meaning is not fixed but rather constantly shifting. It's kind of the same like deconstruction, right? And The Location of Culture is by Homi K. Bhabha, and he argues that culture is also not a fixed and stable entity but rather a contested and constantly changing field. So did you notice all of this has the same kind of idea, right? So given below are two statements, now we have the question related to statement, and again we have two statement. We have to find which one is the correct. We don't have to. We don't have the option for if it justifies the. It is not assertion and reason. It's based on statement. The first statement: my remembered village. If you know about this work, you could answer that. But anyway, we'll just move. It is by Srinivas, and it highlights what the ethnographical detail of village Rampur near Mysore. So whoever is near Mysore, they will know about the Rampura, right? And it also emphasized, the statement second says that it emphasizes on the importance of economic freedom of the masses required for their overall uplifting. So what do you think? It says like both of the statements are correct. Little bit explanation is also there. This is the book by M.N. Srinivasan, who is anthropologist. Remember it, this book was published in 1965, and it provides, of course, talking about ethnographic account of a village of Rampura. Got it? And Srinivas draws on his extensive field work in the village, provide a detailed account of social, economic, and cultural of the people who live there. Fine. Question number 82, again about a statement term negative capability. We know it is by Keats, so that is true, right? And while analyzing the term dissociation of sensibility, that is by Eliot, and T.S. Eliot proclaimed that Hamlet is an artistic failure. So dissociation of sensibility. While analyzing the term, T.S. Eliot proclaimed that Hamlet is an artistic failure. Both the statements seems correct, but why it's incorrect here in the answer, we'll just find out. Dissociation of sensibility is of course used by T.S. Eliot. That is first thing is correct, but it was in the metaphysical poets. Got it? It was not in Hamlet and his problem, right? The statement is true, but proclaim that Hamlet. So doesn't it talks about, it refers way to the way in which intellectual thought was separated from the experience of feeling in 17th century. I hope you understand. Negative capability is by John Keats, 1870. It was in the letter that he wrote to his brother Tom, right? And it explained that the capacity of the greatest writer to pursue a vision of artistic beauty even when it leads them into intellectual confusion and uncertainty. He gave the example of Hamlet as well, right? So statement third, Hamlet and his problem is an essay that we know is by Eliot, which was published in 1919, and where the Sacred Wood, which is the collection of essays on poetry and criticism, in 1920. And again, he called it as an artistic failure because of the fact there is delay of the part of Hamlet in executing the revenge, right? So that's why he had got it, Hamlet and his problem. And he told this about Hamlet thing, right? That it is artistic failure in Hamlet and his problem, not in the other dissociation of sensibilities from where metaphysic poet, right? And there are many critics who interpret Hamlet in terms of revenge motive, where the prince makes an unnecessary delay. So according to Eliot, he criticized what gained attention partly due to his claim that the Hamlet is most certainly an artistic failure. Got it? I hope you understand. I hope we have the great nice explanation for that. And given below again to a statement, this was about the theatre was a greater popularity in 18th century England, right? 18th century, somewhere around 1700, that the it was there was theater. We had like so many plays of I think Goldsmith is there. Uh, Also, we have something. Uh, there is term for it that we'll discuss in the explanation. Theatre had court patronage in and around London. Was it? Of course, theatre had court patronage when there was Shakespeare and his contemporary, right? It could be like uh, 16 16th century and 17th century, right? 18th century, was there a court or London, around London? We'll just find out. One statement is false. Theatre was at a great popularity in 18th century. It was actually in the 17th and 16th century, right, where Shakespeare was there, and of course his contemporaries. That time it was popular, and the theatre had court patronage in and around London. Of course, we had patronage, but it doesn't say like in 18th century or 17th century. It doesn't have a specific time period, right? So through that we could answer. So of course there was patronage court in London, but there was a greater popularity. I mean the theatre in 18th century. So if you would say this question a little bit not kind of a specific like popularity, what kind of this question is that the theater was popular in 18th century? Actually theater was popular in throughout the ages, right? It's like best, but we can just the theater is 16th century and 17th that I told you, right? This is strong if they would have put 16th or 17th century that I talked about Shakespeare and his contemporary. And with its growth fueled by a rising middle class and increase in the number of commercial theatre. And statement second said during 18th century in and around London, theatre was supported by court patronage, with the loyal family and aristocrats often attending performance and providing financial backing. So for us, statement 1 is wrong, right? This is wrong, and this one is right. Correct. Anyway, question number 84. Again, we have two statements. Here it is talking about Michel Foucault. The French Revolution. How it will be French Revolution here? Because through the answer, French Revolution, only Carlyle and other Rousseau and all people are there. No, why would Michel Foucault talk about it? Will he? I mean, he might created grounds for the birth of the clinic, maybe in the French Revolution, but does he talk about it? But he's talk about the birth of the clinic. So here it says Michel Foucault was actually associated with French Revolution, and he actually created grounds for the birth of the clinic. So statement second says Foucault mentioned that the doctors started caring for the body of the patient the way priest cared the soul of the sinner. So that statement definitely is true. That is a little bit biased, because not biased, there must be, but what I would tell you, the birth of the clinic has one term, very important term that you should understand, that is medical case. So I'll tell you, just simple, when you go to a doctor, right, or any clinic, doctor doesn't see you as a human being, right? He sees you like a body. I mean, just a body. This is the body, and he doesn't see a person as a person or human. He sees as a body part, right? Okay, this is medical gaze, and that gaze could happen in many ways. There are other gaze, like there is male gaze, there is female gaze, and all these stuff, so many gazes. So that was because doctor sees you not as a human but like moving body part. Got it? So that term was in the birth of the clinic. So both the statement is true, and we have the explanation why. Michel Foucault, French philosopher and historian, argued that French Revolution played a significant role in the birth of the modern. So it was actually in the French Revolution that the birth of the birth of the clinic happened. So that's why it was important. So anyway, before the French Revolution, healthcare was often provided by a religious institution. That is kind of true, right? When there was Black Death, right, they had so much exorcism, they were just draining the blood, or they were doing so many stupid things, right? They were all like going to the church, and like still in India it happens, right? In India, even if something happens, what happened, like there is one description in Night of the Scorpion by Ezekiel, right? That he talked about that my mother got bitten by scorpion, and what happened for the treatment, like one priest came and then they did the exorcism, and then everything was like, right? So that kind of description is there also, but that still happens in India in some places. Before they go to the doctor, what they do, they go where, to the temple and pray that, for the good health. But right now it's different again in many countries, but before French Revolution it was the same, going to the religious institution, monasteries, convent. However, during the revolution, what happened, many of these institutions were closed and secularized, which created a gap in provision of healthcare. Got it? So to fill the gap, the French Revolution began to establish hospitals and clinics that were run by trained medical professionals. Got it? So that's why it's quite important. Anyway, it's not related when you talk about that Michel Foucault is like modern, and then French Revolution happened in 17th 18th century, right? 18th 19th century, and but this thing actually happened. So Foucault saw the clinic as a key site for the exercise of power and knowledge, and there he talked about what medical case that I told you. Got it? Question number 85 says, again it is about two statements. The best poetry will be found to have the power of forming, sustaining and delighting us as nothing else can. So of course it has, like, delighting us as nothing else can, forming, sustaining and delighting us. The poetry has the power, yes, and many critic has different view of the poetry, right? Like Sydney has like delight in instruct and teach and all these. Of course, Plato says that it's a mother of lies. Aristotle says that it is imitation of life, mimesis, right? And no man has ever been a great poet without being at the same time a great critic. So no man has ever been a great poet without being at the same time a great critic. So this statement says that poet should be also a great critic, then he can be a great poet. And if he is not a great critic, he would not be called a great poet. And this is like statement 1 is true, but statement 2 is false. Why second is false? Because a poet must also be a great critic in order to achieve greatness. While it is true that a poet may need to have a critical eye to analyze and improve their own work, it is not necessarily true that they must be a great critic in general. Alright, so it is a kind of your judgment. This is, evaluate your reasoning and judgment, these kind of questions. And again, question number 86 says again about two statements, and here we are talking about Roland Barthes. Of course, Roland Barthes, who is critic and believes that the author is the epitome of culmination of capitalist ideology. And Walter Benjamin, in The Storyteller, observed that every real story has something useful in it. Okay, this question you can easily judge that it's true. Most of the story has something to tell you, useful in it, and through that you can just common judgment. Even if you know about it, then it's good. But even through small judgment, you can just come to the conclusion that it might be a true statement. Roland Barthes talk about the epitome and culmination of capitalist ideology. So, statement 1 argued this were in the death of the author, and that the concept of the author is product of capitalist ideology and should be replaced by a focus on the reader and multiple meanings that can arise from text. Got it? And statement second, the statement is attributed about Walter Benjamin, who wrote The Storyteller. It explored what the decline of storytelling in modern society. And Benjamin argues that the storytelling has a practical and moral purpose and conveying experience and wisdom that can be used to navigate life. Question number 87 says statement 1. Of course, three men in a boat, what happened is a humorous and journalistic in form. Of course, it is humorous, but is it journalistic in the form? It says yes. And statement second says it is about three young men. Three men, through the name we can understand, okay, three young men and their dog on a holiday. Of course, it is about three young men and their dog on a holiday. So both the statement, if you have just read about this work, you will be able to answer it easily, right? But again, here what we say, explanation is partially correct because it is humorous, of course. It's travelogue that employs journalistic style. That is correct. Statement second is also partially correct because this is about three friends, J, George and Harris, and their dog, and also there was Montmorency taking a boating trip on the Thames in England, and is not limited to their holiday. So anyway, question number 88, statement 1 says the Indian English novelist, okay, witnessed a warm reception of the writings in Europe, of course, and they proliferated well in India during 30s and 40s. What do you think? So it says, statement second, again, two world war, okay, now we are talking about two world wars, added an overall sense of gloom and civilization crisis. Of course, if there was war, of course there will be some, gloom, sadness, and of course crisis across the globe, especially in Europe. That is true. Statement second is kind of definitely true, and the first one, of course, in 13 through the statement 1 we can understand that it is also true. So we have the explanation. The Indian novelists such as R.K. Narayan, Mulk Raj Anand, Raja Rao, they actually were great writers and novelists, and their work was not only read in India but also in Europe, particularly in 1930s and 40s. So that is kind of true, right? Statement second, two world war, of course, gloom is there, civilization crisis across the globe, okay, and the devastation and loss of life caused by the wars had a profound impact on people's sense of themselves and their place in the world. So this was reflected in the literature of time, included the works of English novelists, which often explored themes of alienation, despair, and the search for meaning in a world that seemed to have lost its way. Question number 89, Dr. Johnson again is talking about Johnson had an inclination toward Tory. Was he Tory or a Whig? So if you know that he was a Tory, you would definitely answer this, right? I mean, you'd find it correct, and of course it's correct. Anyway, statement second, Dr. Johnson strongly believed in transcendental skepticism. What is meant by transcendental skepticism? We'll understand. It refers what belief in transcendental, which is a kind of philosophical position that emphasizes the limitation of human knowledge and the difficulty of knowing things with certainty. So both the statements are true. Question number 90. Again, two statements are there, and statement 1 says what? Derrida. Now we're talking about deconstruction, right? And that every text is different, and every text has not one standout meaning, but it can be multiple meaning, right? That is deconstruction, and through that you will just be able to answer the first statement. So he mentions what? That an aesthetic discourse always involves, this aesthetic, it is talking about beauty, right? Aesthetic discourse always involves values and interest, and independent from a pure and neutral aesthetic realm. So Derrida says aesthetic discourse always involves what? Values, interest, independent from a pure and neutral aesthetic realm. And statement 2 says that he also believed what? That the outside influences the assessment of aesthetic always enters as and when philosopher and historian point out the element of truth. So both the statements are correct. And why? Derrida's views on aesthetic argued that any discourse on aesthetic is always influenced by cultural, social, and political factors and cannot be understood as existing in a pure and aesthetic realm. Statement 2, however, statement 2 is not accurate representation of Derrida's views aesthetic. Derrida did not argue that the outside influence in the assessment of aesthetic always refers. So this is kind of bias, but our answer in the key says the first. So now we have the passage and answer the following. First question in the above passage, it is about Walter Aurelio Pater's statement. So Walter Aurelio Pater's, simple, yeah, Walter Pater, why this middle? Anyway, Walter Pater's statement, imaginative prose should be special. So we have to find where is imaginative prose. So first we'll just go to the word where is imaginative. What? Imaginative, one word we got, prose, imaginative prose. So we'll just read quickly and we'll find the answer. So that is in the above passage, imaginative prose should be special implies intellectual complexity. And why is the answer? How we will find that the chaotic variety of complexity of modern interests makes the intellectualist so of present time and incalculable, which suggests that there is a need for a reform of literature that can capture and nuanced and complex aspects of modern experience. So he suggests that the special art of the modern world is imaginative prose, which is capable of reflecting on the facts of modern experience in a varied and nuanced way and is not limited by the formal constant. Therefore, Pater's statement emphasizes what the importance of literature that can grapple with the intellectual complexity. And where do we find it? If you read it, you'll be able to find that. So again, as we always do, that these are all available in your Google Classroom. You can just go read the explanation as well. And if you have the book of this, well, you only have to read, right, and nothing else. So anyway, question number 92, which of these expresses closely represent the meaning of fervid? So we have to just find where is fervid. in the here. So just quick, you can skim and skip couple of where do you find the word 19th century involving humanity. Okay, must be in the beginning, infinite validity. Anyway, you'll find it and read it. Where's the time? Anyway, I'll just move straight to the explanation. So, represent the meaning of fervid, portraying feelings that are too strong. So, the expression that closely represent the meaning of fervid is portraying feeling that are too strong. The term fervid means intensely passionate, enthusiastic, or jealous, and often implies a strong emotional intensity or heat. 93. Artistic literature is the representation of facts transformed by human prediction in an array of form. Explanation. According to the passage, artistic literature is what facts transformed by human predilection in an array of forms. So the passage suggests that the artistic literature involves more than mere factual reporting, as it involves the imaginative transformation of facts in a variety of forms and confused by social preferences and creative illusion. So therefore the closest option is the fact transformed by human predilection and where array of form. So question number 94, which of the following is closest meaning what the author means? Less ambitious from literature. So less ambitious, if you can just see. And I will just straight go to the explanation. That is better for us. We don't have much time to find. Anyway, you just go and read and then the answer. So according to the passage, less ambitious from form of literature refers to imaginative prose, and the passage argues that in the modern world, imaginative prose has become the special opportunity in art, in part because it's less ambitious than the form of literature. So question number, author prose should be, according to the author, prose should be a varied as human experience. Our explanation is there. Now we have the poem about smoke by David Thoreau, and we'll just read the poem. Light winged smoke, Arcadian bird, melting thy pinions in thy upward flight, lark without song, and the messenger of dawn, circling above the hamlet as thy nest, or else departing dream and shadowy form of midnight vision, gathering up thy skirts, by night star wheeling and by day darkening the light and blotting out the sun. Go thou, my incense, upward from this hearth, and ask the gods to pardon this clear flame. So of course it is talking about smoke, and it is coming from where? Melting, Arcadian bird, melting thy pinions, thy. So the poem deals with what? Fire in the village, or fire on the ship, fire in the city. So where is the fire actually happening? So how will you understand? Circling above the hamlet as thy nest, departing dream, midnight gathering of his skirts, by night, by day darkening in the light, blotting in the sun, thou go incense of word, so I got the pardon me. How do we know that it is talking about the village? How do we understand that it is talking about the forest, city and ship? So the poem does not deal with any option listed here, of course, because we can see, but it is meditation on a nature, right? Smoke as metaphysical entity, using smoke as a symbol for a spiritual purification and relationship between the natural world and the divine. While the poem mentioned this hearth It doesn't provide clear evidence that the poem is specifically about village, but the hearth, through this hearth, the poem is more focused on the imagery of smoke rising, the connotation that come up with, as well as act of burning incense. Burning incense as a way of offering prayer, forgiveness. So while the poem does not mention hearth, it's not necessarily referring to fire in the village. Could be the fire in the village. Exactly, you got the answer. Which figure of speech is implicit? Light winged smoke. Light winged smoke. So first of all, simile, if there was simile, it would have been like, as, this, right? And if it hyperbole, light winged smoke, if it was hyperbole, it would have been like more like bombastic kind of thing. That, so of course it's not. And of course oxymoron is not, it is the answer. What? It is a metaphor, of course. Light winged smoke, and the speaker is directly comparing smoke to a bird light winged, which is a form of figurative language that employs a resemblance or association between the things being compared. So the figure of speech is an apostrophe. Apostrophe is what? Which speaker addresses an absence or imaginary person or a thing as they were present and to able. So that is our answer. In the first line of the poem, Icarian bird cannot ought short of ambition, pride, destruction, or waxen wing. Waxen wing is the answer. That's because in the first line of the poem canonates the idea of ambition or the desire to reach great heights, and as it alludes the Greek myth of Icarus, who flew too close to the sun with wings made of wax, suggesting a daring and ambitious spirit, right? So the word lark in the third line means skylark or laugh or skip or giggle. Of course it's talking about the bird, right? So it could be the answer, not could be, it is the answer is skylark. Alright, so the correct explanation is in the third line of the poem of Smoke, the word lark refers to the type of bird known for its melodious song and high-flying nature. Lark in the third line of the poem refers the skylark, a bird known for its melodious song, of course. Question number 100. Why does the poet seek pardon from the gods? Why? What is happening? While this poem is about the speaker admits the sin of setting the fire. So the poet seeks pardon from the god because he is using the smoke arising from his hearth as incense, which was traditionally used in religious and spiritual rituals. By asking the gods to pardon his use of clear flame as incense, the poet is acknowledging the spiritual significance of the smoke and fire and seeking permission to use in this way. So anyway, the phrase "and ask the gods to pardon this clear flame" suggests that the poet may be acknowledging the power of fire, which can be destructive if not controlled, and seeking the protection and guidance of the god in using it responsibility. So that's done, guys. We did it. Our 2022 shift second is complete. We have also finished 2023 shift 1 shift second. So almost 400 question is done, right? 2 more is there. Question paper 2021 and of course 2020, which is our first volume and second volume. If you have the book, you can just go and read, and then we'll have the discussion. If you don't have the book, you just be here and we'll just discuss. We'll just continue our class tomorrow, and tomorrow also we are going to start we have already started paper 1, right? We have finished unit 3rd. Also, it is about reading and comprehension. That was not too long. We will have now class on communication, or maybe we'll start with data interpretation, because Even this data interpretation is kind of tough, but three questions from that to answer is easy. I mean, through your judgment, through even looking at that, you can answer correctly. You don't have to calculate so much. It's all about your guess, and without performing high calculation you can answer the question data interpretation. But two question will definitely require a lot of calculation, and for that we'll understand, and even you can just guess. Anyway, that is our class on shift second of 2022, and we have finished 100 question. And revision, if you want me to do, we can just do in one day. We'll just repeat, and we'll do that. Anyway, that's done for today, and in the afternoon I will take the class on literary criticism and of course paper 1. So be there, the link will be posted in your Google Classroom. Got it? So thank you so much once again, and I'll see you in the next session. So for now, bye bye. And of course we have very less time, so I'll just tell you that just go and study as much as you can. Alright, so bye bye for now.